Okay, so we're moving on to Unit 2, which is solving equations. But in order to do that, we need to kind of go back for a bit and review parts of an expression, because an expression is different than an equation, and we're going to use that in what we do. And we're going to build upon our knowledge already of solving equations. So before we can do that, we need to understand the vocabulary because it's going to get used frequently. So what are parts of an expression? Well, there's terms. What are terms? If you see here, I have these terms. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This expression has 6 terms. What I would do is I would add in here that terms are separated by plus or minus signs, okay? So you need to make sure somewhere written on your paper is in this section, separated by plus or minus signs. That's what creates our terms. So there's different terminology within that. We have a variable term. That's basically terms with a letter, terms with a variable, something we don't know. Remember, a variable is what we don't know. So in this one, we have 14x, negative 2x. You have to know that the sign in front goes with the term behind it. So if you don't say negative 2x and negative 5x, you're wrong, okay? Something else, a coefficient. A coefficient is the number touching your letter. It's the number part of your term, or variable term, I should say. If I were to ask you what's the coefficient, it needs to be just a number answer. You cannot include the variable. So 14, negative 2, and negative 5. Last is something called our constant terms. Our constant terms are just numbers. They don't have a variable involved. So in this one, it's going to be 9, 8, and 1. And they all have a plus in front, so they're all positive. Okay? So remember, you need to know this terminology because we're going to use it in class. So let's go all I want right now is to go through and state the variable terms, the constant terms, and the coefficients. Ready? Remember, at any time, pause if you need a pause to write it down. So number 1, my variable terms would be 11a and 4a. My constant terms, you would have to write none. Do not put 0, because if you put 0, 0 is a constant. Okay? My coefficients, I look back at what my variable terms are. So in this one, it's 11 and 4. Okay? Let's go look at number 2. What are my variable terms? Well, my variable terms in this one are 3x and 7x. Please put some sort of comma or line or something to distinguish the separation. Now my constants are just the numbers there. In this one, it's 6, and it's a negative 4. Subtraction means negative. Negative means subtraction, and we need to know that. Okay, coefficients. Well, let's go back to coefficients. That's the number part of my variable term. Again, it's just a number. So 3 and 7. Are you seeing how this works? Okay, my variable terms in this next one would be 12m, because there's a negative in front of that 12, and 4m. So we got to go look at what my constant terms are. Well, that's negative 3 and 16. Okay. What would my coefficients be? Remember, my coefficients, we revert back to what our variable terms were, and it's just the number part of that. So in this one, it's going to be negative 12 and 4. Okay, let's look at the next one. My variable terms, in this case, would be 6k and k. You need to know something, okay? when you don't see a coefficient, we're going to come to it again, but I'm saying it now, and I'm going to say it again in a minute. There's always a coefficient on something, okay? Let's go look at our constant terms. -4 and -2. They have subtraction signs in front of them, so the constants are negative. Coefficients. Well, you know 6 because that's in front of the k. But remember what I said, and I'm saying it again, so I would think you should write this down. I'm going to be looking to see if you have it written down. You will lose a point if it's not written down. Every variable term has a coefficient. When you don't see one, it's a ninja 1. So when they ask what the coefficients are, you need to say, also in this example, 1. Okay? So pause, rewind, write that down. I'm going to be looking for it. Variable terms in this next one. -5p and -2p. Again, that subtraction sign has to go with what's behind it. That makes the term negative. My constants would be 3 and 13 because that's what doesn't have a variable to it. Now my coefficients, I go back to that first column, would be -5 and -2. So do you see how you're going to do this? Because I want you to try the next 5 on your own. I'm going to be checking those in the video notes that you load to see that they're done to get full credit. So pause now. Okay. Again, I'm checking those and we'll go over them. Let's go to the next part of this. Why did we need to know the types of terms? Why did we break that down? Well, you need to know what's your variable term, what's your constant, so that we can simplify your expression. How do I simplify? Okay, write this down. Simplifying means, okay, you're going to go till there is no math left. Meaning go until you can't do anything anymore. So to simplify here, we're going to combine like terms. Well, it's important to understand what combining like terms means, okay? And what are like terms? So write this down. Like terms have the same variable part raised to the same exponent. It has to be identical in every way. So if we take a look at this expression, 14x, -2x, and -5x. We already determined that those are variable terms, and they happen to be the same variable term. So when I do 14 and -2x, that gives me a 12x. 12x and -5x, that gives me 7x. So that's how I just combined those like terms. I then have to look at my constants. I have 9, 8, and 1. 9 plus 8 is 17, plus 1 is 18. So ladies and gentlemen, that right there, 7x plus 18, that is my simplified expression I got by combining like terms. So let's go do this together, and I'm going to actually, you'll see me write and circle how I kind of do it. So here's what we need to do. I go through and I'll mark my like terms. So here is a 4x. I'm going to look for anything else that has an x. Okay, then the 7x matches. So I then would just add the coefficients. Here I have 4x's plus 7x's is 11x. Okay, so let's say you don't have a highlighter. What do? Okay, well, anytime you see a variable without a coefficient, we're on number 12 right now, we put a 1. So I'm going to use a box. Here is one term. That is a variable term with a k. I also have another variable term with a k. Those are like terms. They both got a box. So I end up, when I combine these, I get -5k. Do you see why I group the first term and I actually add my coefficient of 1? It will help you. It will help you to combine when we have to add them. So let's look at number 13. This one's going to look a little different. So I'm going to first, I just pick any shape and I start. And I'm going to put a square around this variable term that has a c. I'm then going to go look. Okay, my next term right there, that's a 1. It doesn't have a variable. It's not getting us a box. Okay, see this one, 11c? It's got the same variable as this one. So I'm going to place a box around it. What I'm doing here, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm putting the same shape around my like terms. So since this one here does not have the variable part, I'm going to give it a different shape. I'm going to circle it. So by doing this, I'm able then to combine the shapes that are the same. So a 6 and 11 gives me a 17c plus 1. Do you see how I do this? Okay, let's go look. Again, you can start at the very beginning. Here, I'm going to put a box, and it doesn't matter what shape you give what. The reason why this one has a box is it's just a constant, so I'm going to go down. This one's not a constant. It has a y. Don't give it a box. This is a constant. There's no variable part, so it's going to match my other term. Now, we said this one has a variable, so this has to have a different shape, and it does not matter what shape you're giving as long as you're matching them to the same terms. Now, you're going to see myself as I do this. I always put the variable terms first. So I'm going to put the negative 2y. See how I have this negative here? It says minus 2y. That also has to stay with the term that's behind it. Then I'm going to go combine a 7 plus 12 to give me 19. Some of you may, this is review, so some of you may understand I'm showing you how I combine like terms. So this time I'm going to put a circle around my variable. But notice what I'm doing. I also circle the sign that's in front of the term. By doing this, it's going to help you understand what I need to do to combine them. I then come here, it's a different term, so it's going to get a different shape. So now, by doing this, I have a positive 11 and a negative 5. That will give me a positive 6m. My 13, it doesn't have anything there, so just minus 13. Okay, let's do another one. Here I have negative 6. This is a constant, so I'm going to go down and look. This has a variable part, so it's not getting the same shape. This is just a constant, but look what I'm going to group in with it. That negative sign goes with it. And then this is kind of by itself. So again, I write my variable terms first. I have a negative 6 and a negative 16. When we combine, we're adding. So when I add two negatives, it actually gives me a larger negative, and this would be 22. Okay? So now it's your turn to try these on your own, and I'm going to be looking at them tomorrow. We're going to go over them. I want to touch base really quick, and I'm going to show you an example. You do not have to do all of these, but take a look at number 24. Do you see this A term right here? Okay. What I need you to understand is that this A has a 1 in front. So when I start doing my grouping, this becomes negative 1A and negative 3A. I then have negative 5B, a positive 4B, and a negative 11B, and I have a third shape this time, which is possible. So I'm going to go group my A terms first. So I got a negative 1 and a negative 3. That gives me a negative 4A. I have a negative 5, I have a negative 5, a positive 4, and a negative 11. When I combine that, that gives me a negative 12B. And last, I just have the 2. So if you want to try one of these on your own, that might help you. You can do that. There's a lot thrown at you. This is review. I kind of went through it quick. Make sure you have the ones done that I wanted you to do so that you can be on the right path. And again, come prepared with questions.